You're going to need a canvas so that your clay doesn't stick to the table, a rolling pin, a metal rib, and a needle tool. Flatten out your piece of clay before you start rolling it with the rolling pin, and then roll to the edge but not over the edge. Pick it up and turn your clay, and then roll to the edge and to the other edge again, and repeat this step until your clay is about the same thickness as the needle tool handle or pencil, or a little bit thinner. It's important to continue picking up the clay because it'll start to grip to the canvas and then it won't stretch out. It'll just kind of stay fat in the middle and not stretch out properly. You can see that my slab is just a little bit thinner than the handle of the needle tool. So with my metal rib, I'm going to start smoothing out the surface of the clay. So this will smooth it, it'll also compress it, making my slab a little bit stronger. If you start to make some marks, slow down, set the rib down on your thumb and pull away. Flip the slab over and smooth the other side. Once your slab is smooth, you're going to choose one of the stamps. The stamp represents the center of your plate, so you need to draw a line around the stamp that's going to include the lip of your plate. But you don't want it to be too wide or it'll just flop down, so I suggest about 2 fingers wide is the widest you want to go. The lip of your plate can match the form of the stamp or it can be different. So this stamp that I'm using sort of looks a little bit like a very symmetrical cloud, and I'm making the edges of my plate like a symmetrical cloud as well. But you could make it a rectangle or an oval or some other shape. Once you've drawn the shape of your plate, you're going to use your needle tool and hold it straight up and down and cut out the clay. When it's cut out, ball up the rest of your scraps and start to wedge them together so that you can use that clay to make more plates. Carefully peel your shape off of the canvas and get a piece of this foam. So you can see there's a ridged side and a flat side. You want the flat side up and place your slab on top of it. Center your stamp. And then pressing down directly on the stamp, press down and kind of rock the stamp around and carefully pull the stamp out. And you can see that it's popped up the edges of the plate so that now you have a flat center and raised edges. Your plate's still really floppy and really delicate, so you're going to carefully lift it off of the foam and put it onto a bat and set it aside while you make a few more plates. This slab is big enough to make 2 smaller plates, so I'm putting both of them on the slab at the same time. Repeat the steps, cut them out. Ball up the scraps. Place your slab on the foam, center the stamp, press down, and rock the stamp around. Again, you're going to put your plate on the bat. Now I have 3 plates, and you'll notice that the lip of each plate is really unfinished looking. I'm going to let them dry for a little while until they're leather hard. And once they're leather hard, I can come back and start smoothing the lips. So you can see I'm testing to make sure it's leather hard. The plates have firmed up, they're not floppy anymore. But the edges look really terrible. So I'm going to squeeze the excess water out of my sponge, and I'm going to wrap the sponge around the lip of the plate, and I'm going to use it kind of like sandpaper to get that nice and round, get all the little crumbles of clay off, and make it look really finished. Every now and then the sponge gets gummed up with clay and you need to rinse it out and squeeze it out again, and continue working on the lip of your plate. Once the lip looks nice, you're going to flip it over and check the bottom. The bottom might have some small cracks, and it might also have the texture of the canvas, which you also want to kind of sand out with your damp sponge. And then repeat this step for all of your plates. You can see the difference between the more finished edge and the really kind of chopped off edge. This step is really going to make the difference between a decent plate and a plate that looks really nice and professional and something that you're going to want to use in your household. Once you've cleaned up the edges and the bottom of your plate, it's time to decorate it. There's lots of ways to decorate it, but in this case we're going to use paper stencils. So I've decided I'm going to use paper stencils just in the bottom of my plate, so I'm tracing the bottom of the plate stamp so that I know how much space I have to work with. And on the paper I've decided to do a cloud motif. So I'm drawing clouds that are going to fill up that space. Once I have them how I like them, I'm going to start cutting them out one by one. After I get each cloud cut out, I'm going to dip it in water and the water is going to make it stick to the pot, so I'll be able to stick it down and rub it onto the pot so that it is really stuck down and all of the edges are lying flat. And then I'll cut out my next cloud. I'll dip that cloud in the water as well and stick it to the plate. Repeat this step for all of the remaining design elements that you want to include on your plate. Once you have all of your paper stuck down, shake up a color of underglaze and start painting on underglaze right over your paper. You're going to need a couple of layers of underglaze in order to have a nice solid color. Underglaze is different than glaze. It literally goes under glaze. So even though this plate isn't fired yet, I can apply underglaze that's just color and it will look almost the same color after being fired. Once it's fired, we'll need to put a clear glaze on top of it and fire it again. When your underglaze is applied, take a needle tool and very, very carefully and gently pick off all of the paper that you stuck down with water. And you'll see that it masks out certain areas so that you can see your design.